Okay, race against the battery. Learning from mistakes. I've done a great deal of learning. Sometimes I have to learn something several times. I've got the scars to prove it. 1 Corinthians 10. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us. Keep that in mind, 1 Corinthians. Learning from mistakes. To help avoid future financial mistakes such as those in 1929 and 2008 that brought down the world's economy, the Library of Mistakes was founded in Edinburgh, Scotland. It features a collection of more than 2,000 books that can help educate the next generation of economists. I don't think anyone's reading this. And it serves as a perfect example of how, according to the library's curators, smart people keep doing stupid things. The curators believe that the only way to build a strong economy is to learn from their prior mistakes. Paul reminded the Corinthians that one way to avoid yielding to temptation and to have a strong spiritual life is to learn from the mistakes of God's people in the past. So true. So to make sure they wouldn't become overconfident with their spiritual privilege, the apostle used ancient Israel's failures as an example from which to gain wisdom. The Israelites engaged in idolatry, chose to commit sexual immorality, grumbled about the plans and purposes of God, and rebelled against his leaders. Due to their sin, they experienced his discipline. Paul presented these historical examples from Scripture to help believers in Jesus avoid repeating Israel's mistakes. As God helps us, let's learn from our mistakes and those made by others so that we might gain a heart of obedience for him. What warnings should we recall when tempted to sin? How can we learn from our mistakes as well as the mistakes of others? Dear God, please help me learn from my failures so that I might be more obedient to you and not repeat them. Yeah, this is valuable. There's a lot of things I've done in my life that were huge mistakes. Most of them I learned from and did them again. But as I've gotten older, realizing for me that time is so precious. Some people say, well, I'm single, I live alone, all this kind of thing. People say, oh, well, you must have gotten burned. No. Or you must have, I had one guy say, well, you failed at women, and so you gave up on it. No, that wasn't it. Or why didn't you go out and do your own business? Which I did a couple of times. And one was pretty good. And then it got sold. I was partnered with someone else and ended up selling it. But I actually found as I got older, when I was a young man, when I was a young kid maybe in my 20s, I thought, man, I'm going to go do all this, build an empire, do all this stuff. And let's say I stayed on that track. I'm so glad I didn't go that route. Not that I could have. But the amount of, it's just not who I became. It's not, I wouldn't want to be part of that. I'm not big on employees. We have some. But if expansion meant more people, I don't want it. Okay. But I've had people say, well, you must have a tough time being alone, or something happened, that's why you're alone. Which I'm really not alone. I just live alone. I get people around all the time. But I actually found out that my mistake was thinking I had to be with other people, or had to be around a group, or had to be involved in a club, or dating someone, or living with someone, or married to someone, or this kind of thing, when I was having my most fun alone. And usually it was in between relationships or whatever, I was getting the most done. I was enjoying my, hey, this works for me. So as I made a lot of mistakes trying to get into relationships, I realized, I'm just not going to do that anymore. If my mind changes down the road, which it could, then maybe I'll do that. But I've stayed with this for so long. And it's not that I'm invested in it. It's just, I don't want to make those mistakes again. I've had plenty of opportunity to get back in relationships. Something, oh gosh. I have to call her all the time and all this kind of stuff. I'm extremely selfish for my time. But I think in doing so, I'm not hurting anyone. Whereas if I got into relationships and stuff because I thought I needed to or whatever, then I'd probably do the other person damage, because why put them through that? I'm happier alone. Another thing too is picking up projects. Oh man, I could turn that into something or start that business or whatever. I don't do any of that anymore. Because I have so many things going, I realized my mistake was, just because there's an opportunity on the horizon, oh, I'm going to jump at that. But what about these other projects you've got behind you or that you're doing right now? You're going to have to sacrifice time from that to put towards this new thing. And that's not fair to you're not going to complete these projects. And it took me a long time to get in that mindset. That was the early 40s. I used to get in all kinds of stuff because I had more energy then too. I'm a lot older now and I was good a shape. So you really have to plan everything. So my mistake, I used to be spread really thin. That was my mistake, and I stopped doing that. I learned how to say no, and I could look at I got something out there that's running, or I need to get running or whatever. But yes, we don't actually need it right now. Or say there's a motorcycle or something. Hey, I'm gonna open this up and get this. Not unless I have it planned out and it's time set. Okay, here's what we're gonna work on this. Here's the reason I'm doing it, not just to fool around and take something apart. But am I going to, the biggest problem for me is, am I going to finish this task or this project? And sometimes you may not because you have unforeseen issues. But I won't start anything just for willy-nilly. Hey, let's go open this up. Because I don't need to open another project that I may not be able to finish and then have to look at over and over. It just really kills your confidence. So time is so precious for me. And that's something I've realized as I've gotten older and slower. I have to be more disciplined for that. And so that's by making so many mistakes when I was younger. I don't do that anymore. Money comes and goes. You can always get money. Time, man, don't waste your time. That's something anyhow. Love you, God bless.